Greetings and hello, fellow Trekkies. Welcome back to another episode of Yelling About Star Trek. My name is Christian Fox, and this is a show where I yell at you about all things Star Trek for your amusement. So I'm not yelling at my friends and family who don't want to hear my thoughts and theories on this fantastic franchise. Now, last week, I did a video about Worf and his flashlight in Generations and talked a lot of smack about how it was the most useless thing that Worf has ever done in this series. And I stand by what I said. What he did was kind of pointless, and there was really no reason for him to do it. But I realize, of course, that this might have rubbed you the wrong way. And again, this was all in good fun, but I totally understand that. So today, I want to talk about a moment that makes up for all of Worf's mistakes and is Worf's most badass moment. And this isn't Worf getting beaten up. This isn't Worf just winning a fight. This is Worf winning multiple fights repeatedly. And the episode that I want to talk about is By Inferno's Light, which is a DS9 episode, Season 5. It's the one where they go to the prison camp, and it's actually the continuation from In Purgatory's Shadow. And spoilers, if you haven't seen the episode, so if you haven't seen it, there's a really big reveal, which is fantastic. And I'm going to spoil it right now because I got to talk about it. It's hype, and it's like, what the heck just happened? Is that real? So if you don't know about that moment, then go ahead, watch the episode, and come back. And that is the moment where they arrive at the prison camp in the previous episode, and they see Dr. Julian Bashir, and they're like, whoa, you've been here for a long time, buddy. And there's a Bashir back at the station. So that Bashir must be a changeling. He's up to no good. What are we going to do? Everybody's freaking out. It's crazy. It's a really hype moment. But, that's not the main thing in the episode that I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is Worf fighting the Jem'Hadar. So when they get there, there's the head of the prison camp, Vorta, I can't remember his name, and he does the whole spiel like, oh, you're under our control, you can't get away, ooh, you can't beat us, ha 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 ha. Then there's the head Jem'Hadar, known as the First, who's like, all right, we got to beat people up to make sure that we're strong when we actually go and fight the Alpha Quadrant species. So they pick Worf because Worf is Worf and he's a Klingon, and everybody's excited, they're like, yeah, I wanted to fight a Klingon, Klingons are awesome. Let's go beat up Klingons. So they bring Worf into the ring, and they're like, hey, Worf, you got to fight us, but here's what you do. If we knock you down, you have to hit this little thing to signal that you're still ready for a fight, so please do that. And if you don't do that, you will be thrown out of the ring. And so he's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And so he just starts beating up Jem'Hadar. He wins a bunch of fights. First is impressed, and he's like, all right, let's send even more people at him. They do it. He fights them. He wins. And then, in the process, he's getting injured. He's falling down. He's looking badass. He's looking heroic. But he is definitely taking a beating. And Bashir's like, Worf, there's not a whole lot I can do for you right now because I don't have my medical equipment, so I can patch you up, but it's not going to be great. I'd highly recommend that you stop doing this. How are you feeling, Worf? And then Worf has the great line, much better. And Bashir's like, you're not a good liar, Worf. You're definitely not feeling better. You are pretty beat up right now. And he's like, don't worry about it. I want to do this. And so he takes on more Jem'Hadar. He starts beating them up. He's getting knocked down. He's hitting the thing. He's getting back up. And everybody is impressed and a little bit blown away. But Worf is Worf. And when Worf sets his mind to something, he does it. So he's like, nah, I got this. And I'm going to keep going. So he's taking on more Jem'Hadar. And then eventually he wins so many fights that the First is like, all right, I guess I got to take you on myself. I'm very excited about this. You've been very impressive. We're all very impressed, by the way. And so he gets into the ring, starts beating up Worf, knocks him down. He thinks, all right, I've won this. And the Worf is like, no. I'm going to keep fighting. So he hits the thing, gets back up, fights a little bit longer. And then the Jem'Hadar knocks him down again. And it's like, all right, now I definitely have this. And Worf's like, no. Hits the thing, gets back up, starts fighting some more, gets knocked down, hits the thing, gets back up, and then gets knocked down. And then Martok is there, who we're being introduced to for the first time. We have seen him previously, but at that point he was still a changeling. So this is the first time that we are actually seeing the real Martok, flesh and blood. And he's like, Worf, you're a badass. Everybody knows that. Honor has been satisfied. You can relax, get a sandwich, get a cup of coffee, take a nap, and just don't worry about it. You've proven yourself. You're awesome. And Worf is like, no. I'm gonna keep doing this. So he gets up, gets into a little bit of a fight again, gets knocked down, and does the same thing, gets back up, fights for a little bit, gets knocked down. And just to be clear, I am exaggerating a little bit just for humor's sake, and I haven't watched the episode in a long time, so I'm not 100% sure how many times he gets back up, but it's a lot. And eventually, the Jem'Hadar first is just like, I can't beat this guy. This guy's insane. I gotta stop, and I can't go on anymore, and says to Worf, hey, you're victorious, essentially. And then the Vorta guy's like, hey, finish him. What are you talking about? Finish him. And the Vorta is pretty upset about this, so he kills the first. And then as they're about to be shot, they get beamed away by the runabout that Garrick was able to contact in the really small space, and they're able to get away, and the day is saved. Now, why the Dominion left the runabout there, nobody knows. It's even brought up later in the series as to, why was the runabout still there, and how did you get out so easily? It's a little bit of a coincidence kind of plot armor thing, but don't worry about it. They get away. Everybody's fine. So the episode is great, but what's important is the fact that we just spent the last 45 minutes, not actually 45 minutes because it's not the whole episode, but we spent a good chunk of time watching Worf beat the living daylights out of Jem'Hadar, and eventually the first was just like, I can't even take you. You are that badass. So I think that's super important because, one, we're seeing that this is Worf. The essence of Worf is that scene. Worf is the kind of guy that when he gets knocked down, he gets back up and keeps getting back up and never stops fighting until the fight is done, and does it honorably and doesn't even complain. Not once did Worf say, you know what, can you just give me like 10 minutes to just have a nap? No, he doesn't ever complain. He just gets up and keeps fighting. So that's the kind of guy Worf is, the type of person that just repeatedly gets up after every single fight and doesn't finish until the fight is over. And the other thing that this does is it shows that Worf is really as strong as we all think he is, and shows him legitimately winning fights, because throughout the series, especially TNG, we never really got to see Worf win fights. We got to see Worf getting shot at, getting knocked back. We saw his wrist get broken in a really funny way by Troy when she was possessed, and we even saw a barrel take him out. So Worf just always loses fights on the series, and I've talked about this before, and I've actually talked about this in this week's podcast where I talk about First Contact and how that redeems Worf. So if you're curious about that, definitely check it out. And I've talked about this before, but the main reason that Worf always lost fights was because the writers were like, well, we have to show that the threat of the week is really strong and really something that the Enterprise has to think about. So let's have them beat up Worf, and then we'll see just how serious they are. And by doing that, it makes Worf look incompetent. But in this moment, Worf not only won a few fights and was really competent, but he won every fight, to the point where the first was like, I can't even fight you anymore. And remember, these are people that are bred for war, and their whole point is to win. So the first conceding to Worf is a huge thing and just makes Worf that much more awesome. So I think in a lot of ways, this single scene redeems Worf. Anyways, I'm going off at a bit of a tangent, but basically what I want to say is that this moment is Worf's best moment and really shows us the Worf that we all know and love and know that he can be. But what do you think? Do you agree with me that this is Worf's most badass scene? Or do you think there's another scene that deserves that honor? Let me know. I'd love to hear. And if you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and in the paraphrased words of Captain Kirk, I shall see you out there, that-a-way.